All right, guys, what are the key resemblances between Lee Harvey Oswald and Crooks and Tyler Robinson? We are about to break that down right now. Now, let's start with Lee Harvey Oswald, November 22nd of 1963. Now, everybody says that Lee Harvey Oswald is the lone gunman. He didn't have nobody around with him, no nothing. He just decided one day to just wake up and assassinate the sitting president. I know the mainstream story sounds a little bit bananas, but let's continue. Now, while Lee Harvey Oswald was being transferred at the Dallas police headquarters, he just miraculously gets killed on live television by Jack Ruby.
There is Lee. That is the man that shot the man.
Now, Jack Ruby is a Jewish nightclub owner, and he just loved JFK so much that he didn't even want to hear why Lee Harvey Oswald killed him. He didn't even want to hear about it. So he went during the transfer on live television, you guys can see this, and kills Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, he obviously gets arrested right after that and sits in jail for a few years. Now, this is the tricky part. There is something called the MK Ultra, and there's another thing called the Artichoke. Now, Artichoke and MK Ultra. Artichoke walked so MK Ultra could run. Both of these were CIA programs, both for the purpose of controlling the human mind.
He had never testified at his trial about why he killed Oswald. His defense argument was that he had epilepsy and he had had an epileptic fit and shot him and was amnesic of the shooting. So West inserts himself into the case, gets assigned through his connections to Ruby's new lawyer, Hubert Winston Smith, who's a whole other kettle of fish. But anyway, goes to the Dallas County Jail in, I think it was April of '64, to examine Ruby in preparation for, not the Warren Commission testimony, which he was giving in a couple months before his next trial, because he had gotten an appeal for a psychiatric review. And West, who had told Sidney Gottlieb in these early letters from the 50s that part of his experiments were inducing insanity in a person without their awareness. West goes to examine Ruby, emerges from the county jail, and there's press waiting for him. And he announces that within the preceding 48 hours, Ruby had had a psychotic break that was irrevocable. He couldn't return to sanity. He had audio and visual hallucinations. During the exam, he said Ruby hid under a table because he thought there were people in the room trying to kill him, told West that he could hear children's screams outside his jail cell, as Jewish children, as they were boiled alive. And West said he's completely insane. That was the day. I mean, there was no evidence of Ruby being mentally ill prior to West's exam. West was alone with him in the cell and then treated him for about 6 months. When Ruby finally gave his testimony to the Warren Commission, so Earl Warren, Chief Justice Warren, who was head of the commission, flew down to Dallas with Gerald Ford, who was in Congress and on the commission, and Arlen Specter, the young Arlen Specter, who was an investigator for the Warren Commission, who eventually came up with the magic bullet theory. He called it the magic bullet conclusion. Anyway, the three of them, put Ruby under oath, and Ruby babbled, was incoherent, grabbed Arlen Specter, who was like him Jewish, and he said, "Don't you know they're killing Jews? And they've killed my brother and cut off his legs. I hear them being tortured outside." They couldn't use anything. West, that was one of his objectives in his MK Ultra research, was to make people induce insanity without a person's awareness. Ruby had a lot of connections to organized crime and he was part of, which later emerged, the anti-Castro Cuban effort to overthrow Fidel Castro, which was run, it was Operation Mongoose, by the CIA. It was an illegal assassination program. Ruby denied being in it, and that's in the book. I found out that, again, through West's papers that I got access to, Ruby admitted never that he stalked and killed Oswald on the orders of anyone, but that he was working with these people who were suspected of being involved in the assassination if there was a conspiracy, and he had never admitted that to anyone. It's only in West's file, and West withheld that. So the Warren Commission concluded that Oswald acted alone, There was no conspiracy. Alan Dulles, the former head of the CIA, who was fired by John F. Kennedy, was second in command to Judge Warren and the commission. Richard Helms, who was actually Jolly West's employer for MK Ultra, was the liaison between the CIA and the commission. So Helms knew that Ruby, who they called their most important witness in their investigation, the Warren Commission investigation, because he was the one who silenced the killer. There could be no trial for Oswald because he was dead. So they tried to learn everything they could about Ruby to see if he had any meetings with Oswald prior, or if he had connections beyond the superficial ones to organized crime. Was there something deeper? The commission, which I believe was, a joke from the beginning, it was set to determine. They said in the beginning their objective was to prove that Oswald acted alone. They came up with that conclusion, but after the first Senate intelligence hearings in the early 70s that exposed MK Ultra, Chaos, COINTELPRO, primarily the Frank Church hearings, they found out that Dulles and Helms and others had lied about the CIA's involvement with Oswald and with their own agents who had these peripheral we don't know if they were peripheral or not, but definitely encounters with Oswald. They withheld all that. So the House voted to have what they call the House Select Committee on Assassinations that began in 77. In 78, they released their report, which they concluded there was a probable conspiracy to kill Kennedy, that Oswald didn't act alone. And, there's lots of books about that.
Yeah.
And in their findings, and then later the head of the committee, Robert Blakely, wrote a book where he said that Ruby had acted on behalf of the conspiracy to silence Oswald, that he had stalked him, premeditated the murder, and that the whole thing was part of keeping the secret. So was West a part of that? Again, I can't prove it. I wanted to find out if West had any encounter or any...
The important part right here, guys, is who Dr. West is. Now, Dr. West is known to be part of MK Ultra and Artichoke. Now, can you really rule out that Lee Harvey Oswald wasn't touched by the MK Ultra or Artichoke? Are we sure that Jack Ruby, because why would Dr. West go see him? Why would this specific psychiatrist go see him? Even the way Lee Harvey Oswald was killed was very, very suspicious. Very suspicious at the headquarters of the Dallas Police Department, because there was security failure on live television at the Dallas Police headquarters while transferring a man who allegedly killed a sitting president. That is mind-blowing. I understand it's 1963. And maybe you guys didn't really know, but I don't know. Somebody can just come to the Dallas Police headquarters and just get to the man who shot the president, and he can just kill him right there on the spot. Obviously, a lot of questions all over the place. Now, how does this connect to the alleged shooter Crooks, who attempted to assassinate Donald Trump? And how does this connect with Tyler Robinson, who allegedly assassinated Charlie Kirk? So we're going to try to piece these stories together and see if there is any MK Ultra. So let's start with Crooks. There's not much known about this situation whatsoever. He failed at trying to assassinate Donald Trump. But something weird happened to Donald Trump, because we don't know about Crooks that much, because that was shut down real quick. They just killed him, and that was the end of that. So there didn't need to be a Jack Ruby there afterwards trying to take care of the evidence or the witness. But there is something strange about this situation, because you have Donald Trump, who before Butler was very, very anti-war. He called the forever war stupid. And he was supposed to be the guy who stops the Ukraine war and doesn't get us in new wars. At that point, it was always America first. But after Butler, everything changed. And now we are in a war with Iran, and his entire campaign just switched completely over. It's like a whole new person. Now, Donald Trump doesn't want to talk about the assassination attempt. He doesn't necessarily want to talk about the failure in the security of any of that. He just sort of wants to move forward from that. Now, this is just a conspiracy of mine, okay? I think what happened was they grazed him in the ear. They sat him down, and they were like, listen, obviously, as you can see, everybody can get touched. So I'm going to need you to move the way I need you to move. Now, the wildest part is the fact that Blinken...
Back during the Obama administration, the Israelis were pushing President Obama to take military action against Iran, and were warning that they would do it themselves if he didn't. And he wouldn't, because he thought the better way to get at the nuclear program, which is what we were focused on, was through very muscular diplomacy backed up by very, very strong sanctions that we rallied the world to put in place. And then we got the Iran nuclear agreement. In the days after the October 7th attack on Israel by Hamas, the Israelis were insisting that in the north, Hezbollah from Lebanon was about to attack. And they wanted to strike preemptively against Hezbollah. And President Biden said, look, we're with you. We'll always be with you in defending Israel. And if you're attacked, we're there. But we're not there if you're going to start something. And we came within about 30 minutes of having a war in the north based on bad information that the Israelis had about an imminent attack from Hezbollah. We were able to avert that, but Biden was very insistent. We're not going to do something that you initiate, that you start. It's very different than defending Israel when it's been attacked. I can't speak to what the dynamic was this time. I heard that, then it was walked back. The president said it was the other way around. There's been a shifting rationale, a shifting explanation for why this, why now. And again, that's why it's so important to have ideally laid this out before the American people and our partners and allies. We might have had less friction with them if there was a compelling case to be made, to make sure that we laid that out in advance and had them with us on the takeoff, not mid-flight or on the landing.
Benjamin Netanyahu has been attempting to get him into a war with Iran since the very beginning, since Barack Obama. But Barack Obama and Joe Biden declined that. And they obviously convinced Donald Trump. Now the question is, did they convince him by grazing his ear? Did they sit him down and was like, listen, as you can see, everybody can get touched. So you either do as we say or you're next. Now, that raises a lot of questions, of course, a lot of questions. And you get shut down real quickly by being called a conspiracy theorist. And I understand that. But what is it to say that Crooks? Because all of these shooters are just out of nowhere, these assassinators. You know, they climbing out on roofs and they climbing out on windows and they just shooting. Now, Crooks, before his attempting of assassinating Donald Trump, did not have any criminal record, did not commit any crimes. He just out of nowhere just became this professional shooter. Crooks, just like Lee Harvey Oswald, out of nowhere, they just decided to go on the top window or climb on top of a roof and try to assassinate a sitting president or a former president. It is a bit weird because Crooks didn't have a criminal record. And not much is known about him right now. And not much is being talked about him. Donald Trump is trying to leave this behind him. He's not trying to talk about this anymore. So there's a lot of questions and skeptics in this situation. Me personally, I think he got sat down and now he's doing exactly what they told him to do. Now, let's move on to Charlie Kirk, which is even a wilder story. This one is wild. This one is extremely, extremely wild.
And Charlie said that on the Patrick Bet David podcast very famously. And, obviously a whole other thread is we had the very public, very brutal killing of Charlie Kirk. And it tells the same story as the assassination attempts against President Trump, about the failure to properly investigate Jeffrey Epstein, which is that we don't have an FBI.
I know.
We have something that obstructs our investigations rather than conducts them, the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Yep.
All I know about the Charlie Kirk assassination is that I've been handed a story that doesn't add up. Now, I didn't know Charlie well. I had contact with him, and I knew something of what he thought. Even his public-facing side was very clear about his concerns about an attack on Iran. He would have been a formidable voice at this moment. I feel that something was watching, and it felt the clock ticking, and its opportunity to finally bring about this war, which I think Netanyahu said he's been dreaming of for 40 years.
He did say that.
So something wanted this war to happen, and there was the perception that the opportunity, the window was closing. Given how public Charlie was on this topic, I can't help but wonder.
Now we got Tyler Robinson, another never broke a law before, turned into a lethal assassin. He's on the roof. Nobody sees him. He dismantles his rifle. He climbs down. He's able to evade all authorities, FBI, the local police in Utah. I mean, everybody he's avoided for hours. There's weird old people jumping up. It was me. And then they let them go. And then finally the family brought him in because Kash Patel was never going to bring him in. So his family turned him in. Now, the question is, how long will Tyler Robinson be alive before something insane happens to him, before he loses his mind and he becomes a Jack Ruby in there? The so-called official story of Tyler Robinson makes absolutely no sense. How he became this vicious assassin and how he got to accomplish this and how he got to travel as far as he did away from this, and nobody noticed nothing, nobody found nothing, and old people are just getting up for no reason at all and just going like, I did it. It's weird. It's weird. I've been following Candace Owens, of course, because Candace Owens is digging in deep in this situation. So her story makes way more sense. Her anti-Semitic story sounds way more believable than the official story. I'm telling you, way more believable. By far, way more believable. And she's not claiming that she knows the actual shooter. She's not even claiming that Tyler Robinson wasn't the actual shooter. She's just saying this is a conspiracy. This is more than just Tyler Robinson. This been conspired by many. So my question on this one as well is, how do we know the CIA didn't get to Tyler Robinson? Just like they got to Crooks. Just like they got to Lee Harvey Oswald. If you look at all these 3 assassinations with an open mind, with everything they telling us, and everything that's been investigated outside of that, such as, let's say, for example, Tom O'Neill with the Chaos book, all these studies of MK Ultra, you might come with the same conclusion I came up with. I think MK Ultra is part of all 3 of these barbaric situations. Now, me personally, studying and investigating all 3 of these situations, I came to a conclusion that I believe the CIA is part of all 3 of these situations. All 3 of them. I think they're part of Tyler Robinson. I think they're part of Crooks. And I think they're part of Lee Harvey Oswald. Now, I don't think the CIA is even in the best interest of the nation at all. I think the CIA is in it for the best interest of themselves. They are trying to control minds. They are trying to control the world. They are trying to get a hold of everything. Period. Now, guys, obviously the Tyler Robinson is an ongoing investigation. So we'll get more details as life goes on. The Lee Harvey Oswald has been classified. The Crooks situation is obviously super duper weird, how Donald Trump has changed his entire goals as a president and just went a whole different route against all of his voters. And everything people voted for him for, he just ended up doing the opposite, which is weird. And it all happened after Butler, which is very extremely weird. And let alone the Tyler Robinson, the lone gunman, right? Are we trying to bring 1963 back? Come on now. Now listen, I'm not going to go any further on these 3 subjects because I don't want them to come hit me with the MK Ultra, okay? I don't want them to put a vaccine in me and put something in me. Like, I don't want none of that, okay? I understand, yeah, I'm paranoid and I'm a conspiracy theorist. I understand, yes, I'm all those things, okay? But I will never take your vaccine. I will never let you put anything in my body because I don't trust you, because I don't know what you're about. And I don't know what your interest is, but it can't be the United States. Everything that we are doing right now, that our leader is doing right now, that our government is pursuing right now, has no interest in the United States and its people whatsoever. So basically, my point of this video is raising awareness of MK Ultra and their part in Oswald, Crooks, and Robinson situations. So now we have the Lee Harvey Oswald classified. We got Crooks that Donald Trump doesn't even want to get into it. They just left that alone. The Secret Service, failures, security, all that. Now we're just going to leave it aside. And now we're trying to do the same thing with Tyler Robinson. Oh, we got the killer. We're just going to put him on the death penalty and get him out of here as soon as possible. He might die in jail. I'm telling you right now, Tyler Robinson might die in jail. So for his family's sake, his family better be keeping tabs up in there, because I'm telling you, the next psychiatrist that goes sees Tyler Robinson After that, he will be gone. Memory all gone, everything gone. This MK Ultra thing is for real, for real. I'm telling you, super for real. And it's super scary. Because when you can get into the mind of a human and make him do things that he won't remember he did, oh my goodness. We are all, like, whoever wants to take that top position is a target. 100%. So that's very, very scary for us. Anyways, guys, I know these are a lot of conspiracies, but you should definitely look at all three of these situations with Lee Harvey Oswald, Crooks, and Robinson, and try to connect the dots, because that's what I'm trying to do. But anyways, guys, I gave you my theories. You give me your theories in the comments down below. Don't you dare forget to like, subscribe, and share, and tell everybody about Culture of Excellence. Until next time.